It is an absolute blessing to be able to be up here right now. I think everybody has a little bit of an idea of what I've been through and what I put my poor wife through in the last year, honestly. It's been almost exactly a year since I first started having some heart trouble. And the last month has been an absolute roller coaster, from some of the absolute worst moments that you could ever go through as a human, as a couple. And to be able to see God pour out through that into our lives, into other people's lives, through setting up some crazy divine encounters. And just me standing here right now it's pretty cool. So I'm gonna let Sam start, because I was unfortunately not necessarily aware of some of the things that happened early on. So we're gonna let Sam start, and then I got a few things to say toward the end.
Yeah, this is going to be a variety thing today. We've both got a few thoughts and things that God has been doing through us, and He took us on a journey. So the goal today is to take y'all on that same journey, through everything that He taught us, through everything that we went through, and just to kind of lay it all out there.
Don't take them on my journey. 0 out of 10. Would not recommend.
Well, no, not physical journey,
okay.
But yeah. No. So yeah, what I'm going to do is going to start just by laying the groundwork and letting y'all know really what happened. A lot of you already know, you've got bits and pieces, but as he kind of already said, God really showed up, and He didn't just show up once. He kept showing up and showing off over and over and over again. So first I want to lay a little groundwork just by letting y'all know everything. That he had gone to Duke, and I think we'd actually had everybody pray that Sunday before that he would have a good Duke appointment, a great stress test appointment, and it went phenomenally. That was on a Wednesday, and it went great. They told him that his heart function was in the top 50% of men his age, even people with heart problems, people without heart problems. He passed it with flying colors. They said that the medicines were doing everything they were supposed to do. He was active, didn't have any issues. So they're like, we have no reason to do any kind of intervention right now. We don't need to do anything surgically. As far as transplant, yes, it's probably going to be something down the road. The doctor literally said, we can kick that transplant can down the road 20, 30 years. That was on Wednesday. Found out God has different plans, and you just kind of have to roll with it. So Friday, that was Wednesday morning, evening, afternoon, anyway. So we had a great appointment. We were really hopeful, really excited about all of it. Thursday went by without a hitch. Everything was great. We had Aaron and Andrew over to the house, played board games, had a nice dinner. Everything went normal. Went to sleep. Everything was great. 2 o'clock in the morning. Dave snores once in a while. Not often anymore, but I woke up and I heard a snore. Now, typically once I'm asleep, I'm out. A tornado can hit the other side of the house. I won't know another thing about it because I sleep that deep. Nothing is going to wake me up. I heard something that I thought was a slight snore. And so I just not thinking, hey, Dave, wake up. He did it again. Hey, Dave, wake up. No response. So I'm like, okay, all right. Why is he not responding? Dave, wake up. Realized something wasn't right. He wasn't breathing. He wasn't moving correctly. I turned a light on and realized something was definitely wrong. Called 911. Was trying to not panic and trying to figure out what was going on. Called 911, and all I could tell them is, he's not breathing. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if he's okay. I don't know. Help. And while I was waiting on the 911 operator to pick up, that was the only thing I could think of. You know, I would like to say I had some great prayer moment with God. I didn't. I was panicked. All I had time to think and say was, God, help. But let me tell you, God hears those. You don't have to be elaborate. So the 911 operator picked up and asked me all the pertinent questions, and then she proceeded to tell me, you need to do CPR. I don't know how to do CPR. That wonderful 911 operator managed to talk me through how to do CPR. I had to pull him out of bed, get him on the floor, and proceed to do CPR. It was the most terrifying moment of my life. The EMTs, she told me they were on their way. I don't know how they managed to do it this quickly. I swear the EMTs must have been there within 2 minutes straight. I did not know they could have a response time that fast. The only thing I can figure is they were already in the area. They were already in the area right there. They came in, I yelled, said, "Hey, I'm back here," and they got to work. Within probably a couple more minutes, they had him. They came in, used a defibrillator, all the things that you can imagine in your worst possible nightmare. They did. It was one of those scenarios, and they proceeded to tell me, "Look, we've got to get him airlifted somewhere. We're going to take him. We're going to get him to the best place he needs to be." And so 2 of the EMTs went out. They got him loaded in the truck, and they told me that they just took off. Another one stayed behind, bless his heart. He stayed behind, and he was a godsend in himself. He stayed behind and just kept me somewhat together till family got there. Till family, neighbors, Aaron and Andrew again, thank God. I tell you one thing, we found out we really had a heck of a support system during all of this. But the EMT, within just a few minutes, he told me, he said, "Okay, they do not have enough time. We have got him breathing. His heart is beating, but he is not okay. We do not have enough time to wait on a helicopter. We're going to go find it." So they actually intercepted it and took him to Blue Ridge Airport, where they met the helicopter en route and got him to Winston. Now, keep in mind, we were following up with Duke. They didn't ask me where to take him, which I didn't care at that point. It's like, get him somewhere, get him anywhere that's safe. But they told me, they were like, "Hey, we're taking him to Baptist. Do you know how to get there?" It's like, "Yeah, he's been to Baptist for things before." So they got him to Baptist. And I waited. Family got to my house, and then we took off. And got there, I think, between 3:30 and 4 o'clock in the morning. And so we got into the emergency room, and they wouldn't let... They have this weird policy where they only let a couple of people in, even with the emergency room waiting room. Telling me that I can't have my support system in a waiting room with me was not a good idea. Luckily, there was a wonderful individual. I do not know her name. I don't even know if I would recognize her again, but she was a wonderful human being in the waiting room who came out, got the security guards, and went, "No, we're not doing this. Y'all got to understand there's scenarios where your policies just need to be thrown out the window. You come get me. This is fine." So she took good care of us, got us in the waiting room, and then is when all the rest of the chaos started. We were taken to a consultation room where I had numbers of doctors coming in. And the worst thing that I never thought I would hear is a doctor come in and the first thing they say is, "Your husband's very sick and I am so sorry." Because right from the get-go, they were already very unsure of what the evening was going to hold. I had multiple doctors come in that evening. "I am so sorry. I am so sorry. We're doing everything we can, but he is really, really sick." So we were sitting in that room for a while. A lot of this time period was just waiting and waiting. So we get there about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning on Friday morning, and a couple hours later, maybe about 6 a.m., 5 or 6 a.m., I had another doctor come in. They wanted to do something called a balloon pump to help his heart pump because it was putting too much stress on it. And basically, when he got to the hospital, so what happened and what I heard when I woke up is he had what is called, there's AFib and then there's VFib. He had a ventricular arrest, basically, where it caused his blood pressure to drop and his heart stopped. When that happened, he also aspirated. So he got to the hospital that morning, not only in heart failure, but also in respiratory failure. His heart percentage function, back in September when all this happened, his heart function was at 10 to 15% originally. It had improved. When they got a hold of him that Friday morning, it was at 5%. So they obviously went quick work. It was a few hours. We hadn't heard anything. I went out and asked, and they had actually had some things change while they were trying to do the balloon pump. He went into another arrest during that time, and they actually had to abort that procedure. He was not healthy enough to withstand it. So they put him on something, I don't know if y'all have ever heard of it, but something called an ECMO machine. His heart was pumping, it was working, but they didn't want to. It was very important that his heart pump enough blood to his system to oxygenate the rest of his organs. Leaving that up to his heart was going to put too much stress on it. So they had a machine, basically a life support for his heart, that they hooked him to that would pump the blood throughout his body and oxygenate it and keep him going. So I think I finally got back there to see him close to 8 o'clock that night, that Friday night. So keep in mind, it's already been over 12 hours and sitting there in the waiting room going, oh my God, what is happening? Is he going to be okay? I had multiple doctors coming in asking me, do you know how long he was out? Do you know how long he was without oxygen? Do you know how long? I had no idea. I woke up out of a dead sleep and managed, luckily, thank goodness, God woke me up out of a dead sleep to deal with it. And they kept telling me, you know, and I appreciate the doctors being so blunt, but they kept telling me, look, the danger now, the next 24 to 48 hours is key, because the danger now is if he does come to, he may not be okay. There may be brain damage, there may be organ damage, there may be, you name it. You think it, you name it, it was an option. So I finally got to see him about 8 o'clock, I think, that night. And Gideon, he's still hooked to a ventilator. So he's on life support for his lungs. He's on life support for his heart. I still, while I was in there holding his hand, and hoping he could hear me, I still had doctors coming in going, from the ER, because they'd already moved us up to the cardiac unit, from the ER coming in going, I just wanted to check in. I am so sorry. So I still, at this point, doctors, we're so sorry. We're doing everything we can. And they told me that, the next few hours were key. They were going to keep him on the ventilator for a good 3 to 4 days, more than likely. And by midnight, that they would probably start reducing the sedation the next day or two. By midnight, they actually started lowering the sedation. And I was able to actually feel him squeeze his hand and grip my hand again. Which was a really good sign. We were very encouraged by that. It was like, okay, this is step one. We were at that point, everybody was praying. Had a waiting room full of people at that point, and support. And we were all praying for just any little, even the tiniest victories, to just one step at a time. It's like, okay, God, this is what we need. We need him to wake up. We need him to get off the ventilator. We need him to start responding. Next thing you know, he responds. Okay, God, next thing is let's get him off that ventilator. They took him off the ventilator by I think 2 o'clock that next morning. It was supposed to be 3 to 4 days, and they were actually able to get him off that ventilator a lot faster than they had planned, because his lungs had started recovering and started building up, and he was actually starting to show some strength. So I think it was about midday the next day I was able to he was groggy. And of course, I don't know of anybody who would want to go to sleep with everything just fine Thursday evening, wake up Friday at midnight, I think, was when you finally really started paying attention. Friday night at midnight, or maybe even Saturday day sometime, with all these tubes and wires and hoses and not having any idea what happened. During that time, he would occasionally, what happened? And I would tell him, kind of explain everything to him, tell him where he was, why he was there. And then after I got done with that story, they had him on really good medicine. After I got done with the story, a few minutes would pass. What happened? So then I'd go through it all again. A few minutes later, what happened? Okay, all right. So I go out and ask a nurse. She's like, it's normal. Just be patient. Okay, good. Just need to make sure that this is okay and this is expected. So anyway, we go through the weekend. They are doing tests. We had an amazing group of doctors and nurses. I mean, when I say every staff member there was amazing, they were absolutely amazing. That hospital is filled with some God-fearing, God-believing people. It's awesome. But fast forward through, so Saturday, Sunday, Monday mostly, we had some hitches. They started getting him to eat, setting him up a little bit. He couldn't move much because he still had that ECMO machine connected. And they were still at that point trying to figure out what to do, what they should do with his heart, what if he was going to be healthy enough for. At one point, they thought, okay, we can put a pump in, send him home, and he'll be okay for a while. Maybe we don't need a transplant yet. By Sunday, I think, his heart rate had already improved back up to 20 to 25%. So it was looking really good. Everybody was praying, okay, God, you've done it before. Let's do it again. You know, we believe you're going to heal him. We're believing for this new heart. We had no idea it was going to look the way it did. But you know, as we all know, we have our plans, we have our thoughts, we have our ways that we think things are going to go, and then God's like, hold on a minute, I've got a better way. It's scary. It doesn't look necessarily better at the moment, but he usually knows. He knows what's best. He knows how to get you through it and for the long run. So between between Saturday and Monday, he had 3 more, which they had him hooked up on the ECMO machine, which kept him safe. But he had 3 more of those attacks, which they were able to interrupt with shocks and things. But at that point, that told them something's wrong. So they started doing heart caths, trying to figure out if there were blockages. The only thing they could find was that he had enough scar tissue on his heart that it was causing an electrical disturbance, basically. And so by Tuesday morning, the doctor came in and told us the thing we didn't want to hear, the thing that he had been scared of ever since September. Every time we had a big appointment, Dave's response was, well, I wonder if today's the day I find out that I'm going to have to get cracked open and get a heart transplant. Even though things were going well, it was a overarching fear of this monstrous thing down the road. Tuesday morning, they came in and went, well, you need a heart transplant. So we were both smacked in the face with a harsh reality that we weren't expecting. They told us, they were like, look, the time frame for this, the approval to be listed normally takes 3 to 5 days. You're going to see a lot of doctors. You're going to see a lot of appointments today. We're going to try to push this thing through. We've got a doctor's meeting on tomorrow morning, Wednesday. They were like, so we're going to try to get this approved for you by Wednesday morning. Like, okay, all right. When they met a lot of doctors, they did. They had to find out for sure, basically, if he was healthy enough for transplant. So that meant cancer doctors, skin doctors, dentists, heart doctors, regular doctors. Every system out there that is in your body, there's a doctor for, came in his room and just had to do questions and questions and questions. In the middle of all of that, with them stressing us out and information overload, he had another attack, which I'll get to it in a minute, but turned out to be a blessing in disguise because it actually fast-tracked him to priority 1. With 3 attacks in 24 hours, he was already priority 1, but they were going to have to get through a lot of red tape. That 4th one pushed through all the red tape. So Wednesday morning, our doctor came in and went, well, we've got good news. You've been listed for a heart. We're like, okay, what's next? She said, well, that should have taken about 5 days, but we managed to get it done. They actually had the whole group of doctors come in, and all of the people that he saw during that day had to come back and sit at a table, a big round table meeting, and say, yes, we agree. Yes, he's healthy for this. They did that after hours. That team of doctors came in after they had already gotten off work and went, you know what, we're going to get this through for him. We're going to do this. So Wednesday morning, we find out he's on the list. So we're like, okay, what's next? Well, it could take 7 to 10 days. It could take 2 or 3 weeks before he finds a donor. The neighbor that was in the room next to him had a transplant done a week prior, had been waiting in the hospital for 4 months, and they had kept him stable and kept him healthy enough while he waited for 4 months bedridden for a heart. So Dr. Gilbert comes in Thursday morning with this Dr. Gilbert, she's a wonderful human being, I love her to death. She is this tiny, bouncy doctor she's a cardiac doctor. And but she's got the energy of a pediatrician, which is very refreshing when you're dealing with something so terrifying. But she comes in with this huge grin on her face, lays her hand on my shoulder and goes, oh, and let me back up. The night before, Dave and I were praying, and was that when Kenny and Shua came by too? Kenny, we've had a lot of people come by and pray, and that's what I was thinking. It's a Tuesday. Kenny and Shua came by Tuesday night and prayed with us about, a new heart and maybe us not having to go this route. And then Wednesday night, Dave and I had even been praying, God, can you let us know we're going the right direction? Can you let us know this is the right path? I mean, we'll do it. We don't want to do something, though, that maybe the doctors are missing something. Maybe we need to wait a little bit. Dr. Gilbert comes in with a huge smile on her face and goes, guess what, guys? I can't believe I'm about to say this, but we have a heart. Me and Dave immediately look at each other and go, okay, God. Because you can't argue with that kind of a booming voice, so to speak, just in the form of a smiling blonde-haired doctor. 24 hours from being listed, had a heart. So we're like, okay, what's next? She said, well, surgery. Could be this evening. Might be tomorrow. It'll be tomorrow at least. Friday morning at 8 o'clock, he was in surgery getting that heart. 48 hours after being listed for transplant, he was in surgery. I was still in the waiting room trying to wrap my head around. I kept thinking, oh my God, I can't believe Dave's got to have a heart. I can't believe he's going to be getting a heart transplant. And then I had to snap myself out of it and go, Sam, catch up. He's in the middle of surgery for a heart transplant. It's not he's got to have it. It's happening. God's done it. So it's been just that week was absolutely wild. So fast forward through recovery, he gets out of surgery. And they said that, you could be in the hospital for a month or so because there's a lot that's got to be recovered and, got to get his strength back up, all this stuff. This guy right here was on a walker, sitting up in a chair 2 days after surgery, on a big walker 3 days after surgery, had the strength the 4th day after surgery to be on a little bitty walker. Day 5, the physical therapist came in and went, you want to go for a walk? Yeah, can we try it without a walker? He did 10 laps around that ICU unit, and the nurse is like, I don't know what's going on. Everybody was amazed. So now, and he got out of the hospital within 2.5 weeks of having surgery happen. So that's the story. That's the nuts and bolts of the technical stuff. So now is the God's plan and what we saw. Want to start by reading a verse from Isaiah, actually. It's Isaiah 55, 8 through 12. And it's been something that has really hit me through all of this. It starts, got it up? Yep. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. As the rain and the snow come down from heaven and do not return to it without watering the earth and making it bud and flourish, so that it yields seed for the sower and bread for the eater, so is my word that it goes out from my mouth. It will not return to me empty, but will accomplish what I desire and achieve the purpose for which I sent it. You will go out in joy and be led forth in peace. The mountains and hills will burst into song before you, and all the trees of the field will clap their hands. We're going to go through this a little later, and it's going to be in some of my things that God has been teaching me through this. If I ramble, I apologize. There's just a lot. So let me go back through the events and show you what God showed me. Because let me tell you, I know just from y'all hearing this, it's obvious God showed up. I don't know how many of you know the song, it's Brandon Lake's Little Miracles, Counting Your Little Miracles. I actually decided to start making a journal and count the miracles. All the things that without God would not have happened. And when it got into double digits, I was like, okay, God, it didn't stop there. He kept going. Every time I thought, okay, this is the big thing. It's like, no, watch this. When I say God kept showing up and showing off, we started actually having a little fun with it in the hospital, which some of it Dave will get to later. But first of all, I want to paint a big picture for you. Y'all know in September, Dave had the big heart scare. found out he had heart failure, found out we didn't know what was going to happen there. We knew things weren't good, but they weren't surgery yet necessarily bad. There had been a lot of prayer, a lot of words about new hearts, a lot of words about restoration. And we thought then, boy, what do we know now? We thought then that was the big, y'all, everybody that knows us, has known us for any amount of time, y'all know we have this happen. We have some big batch of chaos and something real scary that happens. Then we have a few years of peace. And the next thing you know, it's like, oh, y'all have gotten too bored. Here's another one. And so we thought that was our big bit of chaos. God changed our perspective on a lot, because now that we're on the other side of this, at this point, we're seeing things from a different perspective. In September, when Dave went in the hospital, they told him he had blockages. They were not even able to do stents or anything like that at that point because his blood sugar was so high and he was not at a healthy enough point that even stents couldn't be done because he wasn't going to be healthy enough for it. Yet, fast forward nearly a year, and he's lost 60, 70 pounds overall. Blood sugar got back in normal ranges. His blood sugar was better than mine. And I'm not diabetic, but he was healthy enough to withstand what he had to go through now. We started looking at everything, and after praying about things, God was like, hey, let me show you something. September was not, I fully believe, September was not the terrifying event that we thought it was. I feel like even then, because God knows your future, He knows the things that are going to happen. He has His hand in our lives in all these different ways that we don't know, that we're not aware of until you see something, you're like, oh, wait. And we had a few of those oh, wait moments. We really believe and feel like even back in September, things were put in place to get Dave where he needed to be. That event was not the initial event like we thought it was. It was okay, we're going to have to do something here. Dave needs to be placed in a certain spot, in a certain way, at a certain time, has to be healthy enough to handle this surgery and get through all this. So this is going to be hard, but here's where we're at. Already said, Friday when the event happened, I should not have woken up. I fully believe God woke me up out of a dead sleep because, too, when I do wake up in the middle of the night, I am groggy as can be. I cannot explain to you, there was no way. God woke me up clearly to deal with that. CPR. There are stories about people doing CPR that they don't catch it quick enough. They don't know. There are so many numbers of ways from everything that happened that it could have gone wrong. The EMTs getting there in record time. They were able to intercept the helicopter at a field. Who knows where that helicopter could have been, but it was where they could get to it and get Dave to it in the right time to get him where he needed to be. We had been following with Duke. If it had been our choice 10, 15, 20 years from now, transplant, we would have gone to Duke to get all this done because that was the whole plan from the Roanoke doctors. They're like, this is the best place for you to go. Well, little known fact, we didn't even know that Wake before all of this did heart transplants. We also found out that not only do they have heart transplants, they have a much higher success rate, highest in the state of North Carolina, for a year after transplant, over Duke, over all of them. So, accidentally, not an accident, God placed Dave in the right hospital, got him in the scenario to be in the right place for the best care, with the best doctors, at the best time. Because if it had been up to us, we would not have gone there. Like I said, didn't even know that they did it, but Dave got there. There were concerns there were so many concerns. There were concerns he got off the ventilator quicker. He actually didn't have any damage whatsoever. Once they started waking up his system, they found that everything, pretty much the doctors kept coming in going, we don't understand. Clinically, you look great. This makes no sense. They kept going back and looking at Duke's records going, we looked at this. Everything looks fine. You passed this thing with flying colors. We don't know what happened. They kept looking and looking and looking and could not find it. But yet it kept happening because God had another plan. It wasn't our plan, but God had a higher way for all of this to go. So with all of that, and then just the fact of the whole transplant process. I mean, when I talked to Dr. Gilbert and she came in the first time to tell us that they got him listed that fast, I looked at her and the first thing I said was, does this happen? She said, no. She said, this doesn't happen this fast. Okay. So then Thursday morning she comes in, tells me we got a heart. I look at her again and go, does this happen? She went, no, I've never seen it happen like this. She said, this is unheard of. I have chills. Let me tell you. And you know, people in the medical field, they typically rely on, because it's science, it's medicine. You don't hear a lot of things, a lot of doctors and nurses say things about miracles. I cannot tell you how many people were like, this is a miracle. Dr. Gilbert came in and went, I can't believe this. This is an absolute miracle. We had nurses that would come in during all this time and even after surgery. We had one of the nurses that was training somebody else. She brought in one of her other friends and went, hey, you've got to hear this story while I'm doing his blood work. Dave, tell her what happened. We had nurses coming that weren't even his nurses to hear. They're like, you've got to hear this. This story's incredible. We, even before he had surgery, he had doctors coming in going, this is an ECMO patient? You don't look like an ECMO patient. Most ECMO patients aren't able to talk. Dave's kind of sitting up as best he could, cracking jokes of all things. And they're like, this makes no sense. I see that machine. I see you. You look great. Why this? So everything about this completely defied logic. And it's one of those, like I said, after we kept seeing thing after thing after thing, it just, God really showed up. I cannot say that enough. Every time that we thought, okay, all right, God's having fun with this. This is amazing. This is a miracle. It's like, oh, I got you one better. Here's another one. Here's another miracle. Here's another miracle. He just kept on, and one after another after another. So anyway, we get through all of that, and I got to thinking, and I've been spending a lot of time in prayer, and while I was at the hospital and while I was staying at a house nearby, you know, you have a lot of time to think and just go, okay, God, what do you see in this? What's going on? What else is going on here? And that's where my part of this message comes in. He showed me a lot about three things: joy, peace, and praise. And changing your perception and perspective when everything seems horrid. Because we've gone through, which luckily, I know you said unfortunately, but I think it's probably fortunate that you don't remember some of the stuff. When I say it was the biggest, scariest moment of my life, it absolutely was. But God since then has shown me through all of these things that he's done. You know those old, they kind of show like these little film montages in some of the movies where you're seeing these screenshots of how things have happened to get you to a certain point, to get a certain event. When everything first happened, my brain was on repeat, playing this stuff over and over and over and over. I couldn't escape it till he actually woke up and I got to talk to him. Once we got through all of this, God was like, hey, I want to show you something. I saw the same montage. But you know, in some of those movies where you have all these mysteries revealed at the end, and you see these same scenes that are playing out the exact same, but you're seeing little pieces of the puzzles that you didn't notice before. I feel like God was like, hey, let me show you something. I was there. In the scariest moment of your life, when you were in your room and he was unresponsive, you know where I was? I was in the floor next to you. I woke you up that morning. I was in there with you. I was in there with you when you were doing CPR. I was in the helicopter sitting next to Dave. I was in the hospital room holding both of y'all. And I started to see the picture, and instead of playing the horror movie that I kept seeing, God put a different spin on it. And I started seeing the light and love and care in every place that I was like, but God, what about, it was, hey, look at this. I was right here. I was right there. You thought it was just you. I was here. Let me show you. And my perspective completely changed on all of that, because at no point, I mean, obviously, when I can read you a list of miracles and everything that happened, it's like, oh, yeah, absolutely, God was with you. Knowing it and seeing it for myself and feeling God's love through all of that, even after the fact, and going back and revisiting some of these hard facts and hard things that we went through, seeing God illuminate himself and going, let me make this real. Let me make me real to you. It was, I can't explain it. I cannot explain it. So that's about changing perspective, because God took something that was horrible and completely not only took control of it and got us through it, obviously, but hindsight took my whole perspective on it, picked it up, rearranged the pieces, and went, now look at this picture. Isn't it a better picture than what you were seeing? So one of the things, let me get to my actual, I promise I'm not going to take much longer because Dave's going to talk too. We've just had a lot to get through in general. It's been crazy. But one of the things that God's been really talking to me about is joy. I have always been one of those people that I'm more reserved. I am more even keel. I would not say that I get real happy and hyper. I'm not a gung-ho person. I'm just kind of introvert. Just leave me alone. Let me do my thing. And I have struggled. I have struggled with depression. I have struggled with anxiety. I would like to say that those things are no more. They still come back, as they do. And there have been times where people would speak words over me going, oh, you're going to be filled with joy. You're going to be filled with joy. And I've gotten to the point where I've heard that so many times that prior to all of this, and ironically enough, I would get to the point of, if one more person tells me I'm going to be filled with joy. Because I got to the point where somebody would say that in the middle of some of our chaos, not this time per se, but in the middle of the chaos, I'm like, God, where is it? Where is this joy? Found out I was looking at it wrong. So this is where the kids come in. What is a good definition? And I know some of y'all don't like being on the spot, so if somebody does want to answer, what is joy to you? Any answers? There's not a wrong answer, because let me tell you, if it makes you feel any better, I was wrong. Nothing? Crickets.
Right now, I see laughter, I see like smirking, giddiness.
There's little signs. There's little signs. Okay. So what I always looked at as joy was being happy, being uplifted, being smiling, laughter. And when you're depressed, you don't have that. There's a major absence of laughter and what I would call happiness. God started to show me that I had been looking at joy and happiness as identical things. They're not. They are very, very different. I hate that it took me this long to figure this out, but here we are. Joy is not equal to happiness. So I did a little word study on joy. Yeah, it is. I'm going to read you a couple of definitions of joy. Deep-seated, enduring sense of well-being, rooted in one's relationship with God and his promises. Another definition is a feeling of good pleasure and happiness that is dependent on who Jesus is rather than on who we are or what is happening around us. That's the problem right there. That's the kicker. When I was trying to figure out where my joy was, guess where I was looking? Everywhere else. I was looking at, well, this is happening, and this is happening, and this has me depressed, and this has me stressed out. No wonder I didn't have joy. I was looking at that mess. I wasn't relying and looking at God. I wasn't looking at the source. So let me also reread that first definition again. But God showed me another thing. peace is part of it too. So instead of well-being, I'm going to replace it with the word peace. Joy is deep-seated, enduring sense of peace, rooted in one's relationship with God and his promises. Now, we've all heard the verses about Jesus stepping into the boat, calming the storm, learning to have peace in the storm. We've all heard those how many times? I mean, countless. You hear it so much, it's like, okay, yeah, I know that. It's so easy to go, yeah, that's a great idea. That's a great thought. That's a great verse. That's a great scripture. But till you go through it. And then you're sitting there going, where is it? Where is it? How do I do this? You know, I know these scriptures, but how do I apply them? How do I make this work? How is this happening when I can't think past what's in front of my face right now? How do we deal? And it was the weirdest thing. And I wish I had an answer for how you make that happen. I don't. Because at some point, a switch flipped during the couple of weeks that we were in the hospital. And with prayer, and I was listening to music and just spending time with God, all of a sudden, that switch just... And we had, leading up to the surgery, after all of that, we had such, and I mean, maybe it was partially because God had already shown his hand in all of it. And we had been asking, hey, can you show us where you're in this? We had such an overwhelming, weird sense of peace in that batch of chaos that we were dealing with. Another scripture that we've heard a million times, and you understand it here, but not here. I can understand it here, but feeling it here is a whole nother thing. It's a heart matter. And God wasn't just giving Dave a new heart. He did some surgery on me during those couple of weeks too, showing me some things. Because it really is a whole nother world when you're in it. And then when God shows you, hey, this is how it's supposed to be. This is how you're supposed to be handling this. Come with me. Let me hold you. It's okay if you cry. It's okay if you freak out. But I've got this. And at that point, when everything's happening, there comes a surrender point where we didn't, I mean, you know, what are we going to do other than hold on and pray and, you know. But back to the joy. It's crazy for me to think it took a major disaster that ends up not being a disaster because God had a bigger plan. But it took a terrifying thing to finally show me what joy was. And one thing that God has shown me, so you've got praise as well. Praise is a part of this too. But you've got praise and you've got joy. When you're full of joy, guess what that does? That overflows into praise. But then on the other side of that, guess what praise does? Because praise, if you can do it, and people talk about a sacrifice of praise and praising through pain, and let me tell you, that's one of the hardest things. Lesson for y'all, one of the hardest things you'll ever do is figuring out how to praise through pain. But if you can figure out how to do it and make yourself do it, it will help so much, so very much. So praise, joy overflows into praise. And you don't always feel like praising, but praise, it can be loud and it can break through whatever this mess is that you're dealing with. It can break through the circumstances of what you're facing and break through to release that joy. So then you see what happens is you praise through your circumstances. Then you get into joy. Then the overflow of joy causes more praise. Then the praise breaks through the next circumstances. Things are not going to be rosy all the time. We're going to have trials. We're going to have bad days. We're going to have good days. But if we can stay in that loop and learn to stick with God and stay in that loop, then we'll be fine. Because if we can just praise through those circumstances to find that joy, and then the joy goes into praising God, and then it just keeps going. And then we're right in the middle of it where we need to be, where we were created to be. Praise enables us to focus, and it forces us, because, people, it's one of the sayings, God's bigger than your problems. When you look at it, our problems in the realm of the world are teeny tiny. Even as massively huge when it comes to God and creation and the scale, our problems are small. Why do we let our problems be so loud? Why do we let our problems drown out the one thing that can actually help us? Praise helps us fight back with that. I know everybody's heard praise is a weapon. Praise is a weapon. It's warfare. Let me tell you, when my circumstances are loud, guess what I've started doing? I crank that radio up, even if I'm crying. When he found out in September what was happening and I was driving from Rocky Mount to Roanoke Hospital, hardest thing I've ever done. I didn't know what else to do except for pray. I cranked my radio up and I bawled my eyes out the entire 30-minute drive from one hospital to the next. But praise was blaring. And a song came on that I'd never heard of, and it was all about praising God and that God was in control of tomorrow. And I don't know what tomorrow brings, but I know who holds tomorrow. And I heard God say, sing that. But don't just sing it, proclaim it. So I did. Driving down the road, I'm bawling my eyes out, and I'm praising God and declaring that he is the God of tomorrow. We didn't know what tomorrow was at that point. We sure didn't know it was going to lead to all of this that's happened. But it was one of the hardest things that I've ever done. But let me tell you, when I got to that hospital in Roanoke after that, I didn't feel good, but I felt better. It was a start because my thought process I had broken through. I had made the choice of, I can bawl my eyes out and get depressed and stress out and panic and freak out. Or I can sing at the top of my lungs, bawling the whole way, and go, you know what? God is louder than this. God is bigger than this. I'm going to be louder than this. This is not how we're supposed to live. I am overcoming this one way or the other. We don't have a lot of control over things when stuff like that happens. But we can control our reactions. And that's really hard to do. But it's kind of like be a thermostat instead of a thermometer. Instead of reading the temperature in the room, by golly, let's make our own. If the circumstances are awful, praise. I know it's hard. I know it hurts. But praise. Let's change the circumstances. At least that's the one thing that we can influence and have any kind of semblance of control over is when things are bad, okay, I can praise. And it doesn't sound like much, but it's a way to fight back. It is. It is. So, let's see. It's really hard to praise through pain. Went through that. In those moments, we force ourselves to give up our control of what's around us. Because it's so easy. We're human. So what does humanity come with? Stubbornness. I don't know about y'all, but I am stubborn as a mule. So when I get into something that is out of my control, it's just as hard going through that thing sometimes as it is me to go, I don't have any power over this. I don't like that because I've always been one of those people, if you don't like it, change it. If you don't like it, fix it. Because usually there's something that you can do to, God has shown me, no, not always. And that's been a hard pill to swallow. But in those moments, we force ourselves to go, okay, God, hands off. We'll give it to you. Can't do anything else, so I'm going to praise. In those weaker moments, our praise is warfare. It really is. And when we're praising, we're actually speaking the truth of God into the situation. God, you're great. My husband's on a table, and I don't know if he's going to make it or not. I have doctors coming in going, I'm so sorry. God, you're great. God, your will be done. I cannot tell you how many times I had to make myself go, God, I'm giving Dave to you. It was really hard. But I knew he had it. But having to go, God, he's yours. You hold on to him and do what you need to do. I'm going to hold on to you right now and let you do the rest. So when you see, and I went into perspective. So, I mean, like basically with everything that we've been through and everything that we've seen, God really did change your perspective on everything. Because what started as this horrifying ordeal, and yes, looking back, it's still terrifying. Yes, it is still hard, an honesty moment. I didn't see the helicopter, and it was one of the things that I did not expect to have an effect. I cannot see a helicopter land at a hospital right now. Can't hear it. Moment I do, panic. It's just an automatic, it's just a thing right now. God's got it. It's going to be fine. Going to work through it. It's going to be a process. So yeah, is it still scary? Yes. When I go back and think about it, yes. But when I look at it, God has reminded me and keeps reminding me of, no, don't see it like that. It's been a daily thing. God's like, don't see it like that. Remember, nope, don't see it like that. Nope, don't go there. Don't look at it that way. Look at what I showed you. Look at how I showed you. Look at where I was. Don't think of how scary this was. Think of me holding you. Think of this. And having to just redirect the thought process constantly. And the problem is, too, it's so easy to get when things are swirling around and there's chaos and you don't know what's going on. It's so easy to get caught up, especially when doctors are telling you all this facts and information. It's so easy to get stuck in here. It's so easy to go, oh my gosh, this is terrifying, and go on to this downward spiral of everything that your brain's saying. Guess what, guys? Remember the Garden of Eden? Guess what one of the number one things was that got us all in trouble? Thinking up here. Not to say don't use your mind and don't think, but we've got to focus our hearts. Yes, we've got to use our hearts and listen to our hearts to start seeing it from God's perspective. Because if we were in control of things, let me tell you, it would be an absolute mess. I don't know of anybody. I'll be the first to say, I would make a mess of everything. I don't know of anybody, if anybody in here says, oh yeah, I could do a better job. Have at it. Good for you. Congratulations. I don't know how you did it. But we need to get to a point of, and it's hard to do, but we need to get to a point where we focus on what's important. We focus on the praise. We focus on living in that peace. We focus on the joy. And like I said, that doesn't mean that we're going to be happy all the time. That doesn't mean that things are going to be peachy and rosy all the time. But we've got to rely on the one steady thing that we have to hold on to. And then the one tool that he's given us to fight it, which is our worship and our praise. And we've got to just get to the point of, because, creation was meant, we were meant to praise. There's a spot in there's a verse that, well, if the rocks won't, if I won't cry, if they won't cry out, then the rocks will cry out in their place. What are we doing? Isn't it time for us to start crying out? Because if we don't, the rocks and the trees and the latter part of Isaiah that has now disappeared on me, actually says, no, it disappeared completely. The later part of Isaiah that I read earlier, everything works. Everything works for God's purpose. He has put things together in a way that we cannot imagine. We cannot think or imagine. And so he talks about, as the rain and the snow come down from the heavens and do not return without watering the earth and making it bud and flourish, so that it yields seed for the sower and bread for the eater. Storms come. You think they're horrible. You think they can be destructive. But with that storm and that rain comes the nourishment that the flowers need to bud and bloom and turn into something beautiful. So it is my word that goes out from my mouth. It will not return to me empty, but will accomplish what I desire. You will go out and achieve the purpose for which I sent it. You will go out in joy. Be led forth in peace. The mountains and hills will burst into song, and the trees of the field will clap their hands. They're going to do it anyway. We might as well join in, right? Are we going to let the trees of the field and the rocks cry out and put us to shame? We're the ones that are actually experiencing what God has done in our lives. We've got to share it. We need to praise. We need to let it out. we've been given a voice. Let's use it. That's it for me.
Awesome.
Sorry.
I don't know what else I can say after that, honey.
Sorry.
All right. Well, as Sam went through, we have been through some things. So after the transplant, after everything was done, I was laying in the bed one night, and I was laying in the bed all day and all night. But there was one evening that an old song that I loved when I was in high school came up. I don't know how many of you remember this guy, Josh might, Aaron might. It's Chris Rice. He did a song called "The Power of a Moment," and my part of this message is called "The Power of a Moment." And this song really hit me when I was a kid. I'd be, going between classes. I had a lot of like independent study kind of things because I was in journalism, I was in drama, and had a lot of free time. So I'd have my little, this is the '90s, so I had a Walkman with actual headphones and that whole deal going on. But and then a CD player. So, the lyrics to that song, I'll read through some of them right now. It's, what am I going to be when I grow up? And how am I going to make my mark in history? And what are they going to write about me when I'm gone? These are the questions that shape the way I think about what matters. But I have no guarantee of my next heartbeat. And my world's too big to make a name for myself. And what if no one wants to read about me when I'm gone? It seems to me that right now is the only moment that matters. Then you know the number of my days. So come paint your pictures on the canvas in my head, and come write your wisdom on my heart, and teach me the power of a moment. In your kingdom, where the least is greatest, the weak are given strength and fools confound the wise, and forever brushes up against a moment's time, leaving impressions and drawing me into what really matters. It goes through the chorus again, but like I said, this really hit me and made me, when you go through a situation where it could have been the end of your life, you cannot come out the other side without being changed again in some way. And folks, this isn't the first time that I've come through a crazy moment where it could have been the end of my life. When I was 34, I had cancer. If I had had that cancer 20 years before that, if I'd been 34 years old and had that cancer in 1988 instead of 2018, I would have died. There was a 5% chance of living through that. That's now a 95% chance because medicine has come so far. So, I mean, miracle one, miracles on miracles. Let me count them. 2020, I had my first heart attack, right at the height of COVID. That could have been it. I mean, you don't always make it through one, let alone the 2 or 3 that I've had to deal with. 2023, 24, the original heart failure situation, awful, could have been it. Then this one. And through those situations, every time you come out the other side of something crazy, you should be changed. You should be able to come back through that and say, okay, I've got to focus. I have got to figure all of this out and not waste any of those moments. Because, I mean, who would ever think at just about the halfway point of what people tell us your lifespan is going to be at 40, that could have been it, I remember 17, 18, we started dating when we were 17 and 18. I had the entire world in front of us, and assumed that things were going to go pretty normally from there, but there is no such thing as normal. So you have to take these moments that you have that God gives you. You have to acknowledge the power of a moment in your life. And the most important thing that you can do with those moments that you have is honor God. So if you are in this room, I apologize, but God has a plan for your life. So, I've been in this room for most of my life, and God will not let me go. I've gone through all of those things. I've messed up. I've ran from God. I've refused to do what he wants me to do. But I've come back around. Don't do what I've done. At the 17, 18s, 11s, 12s, I know it's really hard to listen to somebody talk up here for 45 minutes or to watch somebody else's life and be like, man, I should probably, take some lessons from the things that I see and from the people that are talking to me. Doggone it, take it, guys. Don't go on this crazy rabbit trail circle through life where you don't acknowledge the power of the moment that God gives you, where you don't acknowledge the destiny that God has for you, where you do not take the chances and you do not apply yourself and you don't let God work in your life. Because we may all think that, I'm not going to go through all the verses that I had. Sam said everything that needed to be said. But one thing I do want to go through is talking about, like I said, these moments. And Jesus asks a lot of us. The life of a Christian is not easy. I know his yoke is easy and his burden is light. No, not always. Sometimes living this life and living the Christian life that Sam and I believe and that I feel like everyone in this room believes in is not simplicity. It is not Sunday morning church. It is not a situation where you walk in this room and you leave unchanged and you don't have a responsibility to help and change the world yourself. So one example I want to give to kind of back that up is I forget exactly where it was. I don't know if I wrote this one down. But it is a situation where somebody has come to Jesus, and it's somebody who wants to follow him, but he wants to go home and he wants to bury his dad first. And Jesus tells him that he does not have time to go back and bury his own father. He says, let the dead bury the dead. That is harsh. That is hard stuff. But that is Jesus telling us that we have a greater responsibility in our lives. We have more things that we need to do. And sometimes the responsibility of those things are more important than the worldly things that we see as very important. A little softer example than that. So I wanted to talk about Mary and Martha. And that is Luke 10, 38 through 42. I'm going to read that one. It says, as Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary, who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me. Martha, Martha, the Lord answered, you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. Mary chose to sit at the feet of Jesus. Mary chose to just be there. And she chose to take that power of that moment to experience what the Holy Spirit and what Jesus had for her. And that is what I really encourage all of us to do, is don't wait around for something crazy to happen to you to take those moments that are important. The important things in our lives are our family, our God, and our health. If you do not have those three things, you have nothing. You are bankrupt. So, God first, health, and family right behind it. Let God work through you. When we were in the hospital, Sam had some amazing encounters with people, because even through all of the horrors that we were going through, she kept herself open. She kept her spirit open to allow God to work through her. You had, at least 7 or 8 people. We had a prayer list in the hospital. She'd come back every day, from someone she met that we needed to pray for. So
Yeah,
it was.
when I stopped seeing people in the hospital, then they started calling me randomly for appraisals. And remember that one?
Oh yeah, absolutely. She had a lady call her, and she's like, "Well, we can't help you with this appraisal right now, but my husband's in the hospital." And she's like, "Oh my goodness!" And then they started talking. Sam ends up just about praying for the lady, and they have a church service over the phone. I'm just sitting there like, what is happening over there?
I told the lady what happened, and she said, she started crying over the phone, and she said, I called you because I called you for something I thought I needed. And she said, yeah, I do need it. But she said, you didn't give me what I thought I needed, but you gave me exactly what I did need. She had been praying. She had told me she'd been praying. She'd been going through some tough stuff and had been praying to God for encouragement. And she told me, she's like, now I know, hearing your story, that God can work in mine too. And so she was crying. I was crying. Dave, I put it on speakerphone. Dave heard all of it. I mean, God kept putting people in front of us to talk to. We were talking to one of the nurses, and some lady that we'd never seen before. I think she worked there. I'm really not sure. She stuck her head behind the curtain and went, what's going on in here? She said, I just heard so much positivity and felt so much positivity coming out of this room. She's like, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I thought I'd just see what was going on back here. I wanted to say hi. That was it. Then she was gone. Like, what just happened? And I mean, we just kept seeing it, kept running into people. And I did. Every time I ran into somebody, I'd text Dave, okay, this person, this name, this heart problem, this age, or this health problem, put them on the prayer list. So we ended up collecting quite a bit.
Yeah, it was just cool to see God work in crazy situations. So, I'm going to close, and I want to encourage you all to pay attention to your moments. Let the Holy Spirit work through you. Stay open. Focus on God. Focus on your families. Focus on the things that matter, because nothing else matters. I know you see the memes, all that. No one's going to remember how many hours you worked. No one's going to remember what you did at your job. No one's going to remember anything. Your family is going to remember you. God is going to remember you when he takes account of everything that we've done in our lives when we're at those gates. That's the stuff that matters. So, don't waste these moments, folks, because you get one time around. God is the only one that knows the number of our days. And every once in a while, when you never expect it, you have that chance that you might not come through unless God decides you're coming through. And I pray that God always decides to bring us through it. All right. We'll pray right quick and close. Lord God, we just thank you for your love. We thank you for your miracles. We thank you for your presence in this place. And we thank you for everything that you do for us in our lives. Lord God, continue to build us up. Continue to pour out your Spirit upon us. And continue to be with us in our lives, in our everyday moments, and help us to be able to be open to the moments that you want us to focus on. In Jesus' name, amen. No. Let me get No, thank y'all. I meant to say it the second I got up here. Thank each and every one of you for everything that you did for us while we were in the hospital, since we've been home, for my entire life, for quite a few of you, for my entire life. I love you all, and I appreciate everything that you've ever done for us.